Beautiful. Thank you so much, sister. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. For those of you that don't know me, I wear a lot of hats in the psychedelic space, which gives me a broad perspective to consider many angles. I'm a founding board member of the Canadian Psychedelic Association. I'm also on the board of directors for MAPS Canada and chief psychedelic officer of Neon Mind Biosciences. And I came to all these positions because first, I had a business that provided psychedelics to people. In 2012, I co-founded Liberty Root Therapy Limited, where we treated more than 200 people, mostly for opiate use disorder, using ibogaine. All that changed in 2017 when Health Canada put ibogaine onto the prescription drug list, and I haven't been able to legally work with it since. Instead, I've been advancing the movement elsewhere, volunteering with both MAPS and the CPA. Having been involved in the psychedelic space on both the professional and community level for a decade now, I'm well aware of the multitude of deeply heartfelt concerns many people have around the unfolding of this movement. The reason we got together and have spent hundreds of hours creating the CPA is so we might have a platform to address those concerns, which in part is what brings us here today. Some concerns reflected by those in the psychedelic community at large include the patenting and monopolization of psychedelics, the appropriation of indigenous ways with no reciprocity, diversity and inclusion issues like accessibility, meaning will it just be elites who can afford these experiences, or will they become safely available to marginalized populations as well? Furthermore, how do we fit these substances into an already strained and inadequate mental health care system? There are overarching concerns regarding the broader context itself and whether we should even be making attempts to legitimize these substances within the current military, banking, pharmaceutical, medical, industrial complex. There are some who would prefer to see the current system collapse rather than get resuscitated by the power of psychedelics. Then there's the concerns a psychedelic business owner might have. Namely, that psychedelics are largely still illegal, and there's no assurance that's going to change. Landscape appears to be going in a positive direction, but things could change, as I experienced with Liberty Root, meaning new regulations could shut you down. Also, most of these substances are no longer patentable. So if you dump $100 million into the drug development process, what guarantees do you have to protect your investment? There is a chance of decriminalization or outright legalization. If so, what happens to the IP you've been developing? What happens if we get a new government who isn't as keen on psychedelics as the current one and exemptions stop, or worse? And what if you've been an underground therapist for the last 10 years? Where do you fit if everything continues to head above ground? Ultimately, what I'd like to see is as many people as possible healed by these substances. I think they can alleviate tremendous suffering and unleash a tsunami of healing. My views, though still idealistic, have matured over the years. I've realized the most realistic way towards achieving this outcome is for these substances to go through the drug development process, one that's been used for about 100 years now to prove the safety and efficacy of new prescriptions. The truth is that the majority of people out there will never try a psychedelic and experience its benefits until it's made available as a prescription. Moreover, especially in Canada, people do not like paying for healthcare, and it's only once these molecules have been taken through the very expensive clinical trial process that our governments and insurance companies will ever pay for these treatments. Therefore, the tsunami of healing I'd like to see is waiting behind this very expensive dam we need to bust. Most of us on a call like this are already believers. We've largely seen what these substances can do. I know ibogaine works to get people off opiates. I don't need expensive clinical trials to prove this to me. But unfortunately, the plural of anecdote is not data. and data that is very expensive to generate is what this movement needs now. So unless everyone is ready to pass around a hat that you're willing to throw into, we need some people to write very large checks and have a vehicle they feel comfortable with. So this is where we stand. Is it ideal? Not really. The world still needs a lot of healing right now. But is everything lost? I don't think so. I did a presentation at a conference years ago on psychedelic entrepreneurship and what that looks like. My premise was that psychedelic means mind or soul manifesting, and entrepreneurship is to undertake something. So psychedelic entrepreneurship was to manifest your soul into a business or undertaking. The framework I proposed from there was that a common trope in the psychedelic experience was the feeling of unity or oneness with all of creation. And what a psychedelic entrepreneur could use as a compass as they move forward was the question, do my actions align with the truth of our unity? This brings us to the ethics of doing business in this or any space. Is it possible to operate within a cooperative rather than a competitive paradigm while remembering and including the whole? If we are going to compete, is there a healthy way of doing so that benefits everyone? Before anyone competes in this space, there's still a stadium that needs to be built with a regulatory framework and the like. Can we come together and start singing from the same song sheet so that this potential for healing doesn't get canceled once again before it's even begun? We as the CPA aren't here to say we've got all the answers, but we do think there are answers and that they're worth finding. There are some other great people you'll hear from in a few minutes here. And before we end tonight, we've got some very clear asks for you all. First, we hope that you as an individual will sign up and become a member of the CPA. We've got a brand new and very robust membership platform launched that's going to allow anyone who's interested to stay a part of this conversation. Second, if you've got a registered business in Canada or beyond dedicated to psychedelics, please show up for our Psychedelic Business Roundtable on May 19th. From there, we're going to start working together to ask ourselves what it will mean to become a corporate or business member of the Canadian Psychedelic Association. If you become a corporate member, what standards will we hold ourselves to? How can we elevate the conversation so the field of psychedelics is not just business as usual? How can we address the many valid concerns held by the psychedelic community at large? And is there a way to cooperate and coordinate pro bono efforts and give this world the exciting Hail Mary play it is so desperately calling for? Just about anyone I know who is familiar with psychedelics would agree that these substances have the power to open your mind. So before I pass this off to Pam, what I'll ask of you, whether you're an ardent capitalist or as hippie as they come, or anywhere in between, please keep your mind open as to how business could actually be the exact vehicle we're looking for to answer all our wants and needs in this space and beyond. Let's just keep our minds open and aim to do it right, and let's be kind as we figure out our way. The first value we list in the CPA's values is kindness. We put that first for a reason. Thank you. And now I'm really happy to introduce a dear friend and our resident physician, Dr. Pamela Crisco.